Yo guys, what is going on? It is Invin here, and today what I am bringing to you all is a brand new video on what could very well be the brand new fresh start in New World that a lot of us have been looking forward to. Today what we got was the June dev update video, and this video included some really cool and really crucial things that are going to be coming to New World within the next month or so. We're looking at this as the July update, I'm assuming, because usually they're a month ahead, but we are going to be seeing this in the PTR this month at some point to allow for testing, so we should see this pretty sharply. They didn't give an exact date yet, but of course I'll keep you guys updated here on the channel when we do get more about that. But what I'm going to be talking about today is basically everything that is super important that they've covered, and to be honest there is a lot of big punchy thoughts. So one of the shorter dev update videos that they've done, and honestly it was jam-packed with a lot of great stuff, so I'm just going to jump straight into it. So firstly, they started off the video by talking about the new content, recently released stuff like the Tempest Heart Expedition, the Blunderbuss, the PvP rewards track, fort capping or faction control points, all of that good stuff. They basically covered the new PvP rewards and said that they like the way that the forts work now, or the faction control points work now, after the issues that we saw at the start with, people switching it around and stuff and them being too quick to capture. How they've done it now is what they like, so we can expect that to stay. Now, they then went on to talk about the roadmap and their current progression into that. Obviously, coming up to summer in the next month or two, especially July, August sort of time, we are looking at the summer events, which is going to be called the Medley Fair. Now, in this video, Scott, who is the game lead, said you can read into that what you want. Medley obviously being a mashup of different things or a combination of different things. You think of like a song medley, it's going to be numerous different things mashed into one. So if you guys have got any ideas what that could be, do let me know down below in the comments, but it does sound quite exciting, like we might be getting a few different things added in with this event, which is very cool indeed. And they also spoke about the new expedition that they're going to be bringing out, which is called Barnacles and Black Powder. That will be coming again in the July update, along with the Expedition Group Finder, which for New World is going to be an absolutely breakthrough mechanic. It's something we've all been waiting for a long time, and quite frankly, I think a lot of us are going to be super pleased this is in the game. They haven't specifically gone into details yet whether this is going to be cross-server or whether it's even going to be cross-region. My hope is that it will include every server, for example, in EU, can be matched together, every server in NA, every server in Australia, all of those stuff, kind of match within every server within your region so that you can find games that are still going to be with acceptable ping and, reduced lag. And I think that would be really awesome, and that is going to really make a huge turnaround for the game. Now, they also briefly spoke about Barnacles and Black Powder, the expedition itself. They said it is very different to some of the ones that we already have, and it's kind of like an almost very different feel, but a very cool feeling. You can probably guess it's going to be around pirates, I'm assuming, so we'll see how this works out. Hopefully, it is another endgame one. They haven't actually specified that yet, but I'm assuming that it's going to be, or it will at least have a mutated variation of it. But either way, I'm very excited to jump in and try out the summer event and the new expedition on the PTR when these are released. So again, like I said at the start, I will bring you guys a video on that when we do get more information. Now, also, they went into lots of emphasis on the in-game feedback feature, particularly in the PTR, but on the live servers, of course, as well, saying that it is really super useful to them. It's a thing that they use to make most of their decisions off, so definitely use it if you do play the PTR. Essentially, just give them as much feedback as you can using the in-game tool, as that is more direct, but of course, they do look at the forums and stuff as well. Now, they said that they were going to go into a lot of improvements and balances this patch as well. So firstly, this is a huge revolutionary thing for the game. Expedition keys are gone. You no longer need an expedition key to enter an expedition. This could not have come sooner. This is such a good change, and I'm finally glad to say that they are actually implementing it into the game. So what we will need is basically nothing to enter it. They have got limiters on this, so it's not all just free for all with it, but basically you can do 15 normal expeditions per day and 20 mutated expeditions per week. Now, 20 mutations a week, some players might be a little bit shallow. Personally, I don't think that I would be doing more than that anyway, particularly with how rare the keys were. So you've got to look at it from that perspective of how you were getting the keys before with a 3-day cooldown, 20 per week. If you'd saved up for a while, maybe you could, but generally speaking, that is more than most players would attain a week anyway. So even probably more, so you're actually going to be given more, and then 15 regular ones per day. There's absolutely no shot that anybody is doing that many per day. So overall, that is actually a really, really good change, and I think that that will significantly improve the health of the game. That with the Expedition Group Finder, it's looking like it's going to be an absolutely banger update. Now with that as well, obviously it means that you're not going to have to craft these keys, so it's 100% in my opinion a big improvement. It's going to allow much wider access, much more free access to the content that most of us actually want to play, rather than leveling up stone cutting just to be able to get a key. This is much better, although stone cutting probably will come in another way. I'm guessing they've got kind of the stats and stuff to back this up, that means that most players will do 15 normals a day at maximum and 20 mutations a week. So overall, I think that's a big buff to the players. I think it's a great QOL thing, and I think it's going to be massive for the health of the game, so huge props to the team for that. Great addition. Now, next thing here, current keys will be converted into caches that will give you rolls on the bosses for that dungeon's key. So, for example, Genesis, you'll get a roll on the end boss there, or Lazarus, the end boss there. Now, this means that obviously they won't be quite as good as running the full expedition, because obviously when you run the full one, you get loot from each of the bosses with inside that, as well as all of your chests. So it's still going to be much more worth running the actual expeditions while you've still got the keys active. But for those of you that don't have the time or don't fancy playing through those expeditions right now, do make sure that you're at least logging on every day and getting your mutation expedition keys, and of course your regular keys every single time they're off the faction cooldown, every single day that is for the regular ones, so that you can just basically get a bunch of free loot when this update does drop. Interesting to see what we'll actually get from the mutation ones. I'm not sure how they're going to work in the Umbral Shards with the keys there. They didn't go into specifics, so we will have to wait for the patch notes on that one. But again, I would highly recommend buying them off cooldown every single time, even if you're not going to use them, just to stockpile this, because it could be that we get a very good amount of Umbral Shards from these expeditions. Now, next thing to talk about then is some really juicy stuff. I told you guys this was going to be an action-packed video, but we've got some huge changes to perks and loot. So what they've done is buffed over 150 perks. The reason for this that they gave is that there were some perks that were basically top tier. We all know which ones we're talking about there. Things like Insatiable Gravity Well before that was changed, that really are just above the rest. And others that, let's be honest, were trash. So what they've done now is make many more options much more viable. And I really like this because they've actually brought up the less good perks rather than nerfing the good ones. This is great twofold, because obviously it gives more variety and viability to the end game, but also it means that people who've already spent money and invested time on certain builds will still be able to use those builds. It might just be that they would want to switch out because there is better things suited to their playstyle now with a lot more better perks. So that's really cool. Now, there is a big change to weapon ability perks. That is going to be they are way more powerful when they are actually on a weapon as opposed to being on an armor. So it's going to mean that there is a huge meta shift coming with all of these changes. A massive shift in what is going to be known as BIS, or best in slot. I'm going to refer to it as BIS in this video. That means best in slot, or the best item you can have for each slot. So like helmet best in slot, you know, chestplate best in slot. There's all going to be the best piece that you could have, essentially, or the best weapon. So that is going to be a massive change with that addition. So it's still going to be worth having some stuff on your armor, but you're going to want your best weapon perks to be on your weapons, because actually that's going to mean they are a lot better. So that is going to be really important to not overspend on making a set right now in New World, because all of this is going to change in the next couple of months. Really importantly with that as well, some weapon ability perks have been reworked to be a lot more viable and better. So again, even more emphasis to wait for these patch notes to come out, even if it's just the PTR notes, so you work towards that rather than just a blank canvas, which is what we've got now, just a load of cool stuff announced with no actual values yet. So do just bear that in mind. Don't spend all of your hard-earned gold and things right now, because this is going to massively change the meta and the BIS kind of selection when we go into these next couple of patches. Now, as well, they have done a large amount of logic-based tweaks on how perks will roll on weapons to improve the combinations of perks that you are likely to get. So, for example, there is now a low chance to get trade skill perks on earrings and a much better chance to get the combat perks instead. So again, another iteration of save your money. There's going to be some great changes to BIS. Now, things like earrings, you're still going to have, that is still going to be the best in slot with the specific combination of, obviously, you know, what you want to get on there for your role, but it's going to be much more common, so it's going to bring the price of that drastically down. Yes, they're still going to be rare to roll the exact 3 that you want that are completely best in slot, so those are still going to be expensive, but because there is a big decrease in things like the trade skill perks, you're going to get more often than not at least 3 very good pieces that's going to cost you significantly less. So again, save your money there. Also, again, they have reviewed all of the crafting trade skill sets in the game, and they're looking at making them more accessible and more obvious as to where to get them, you know, increase drop rates, that sort of stuff. So again, another one, do not overspend on these either. Basically, save your money over the next month or so in New World. You're going to want it once this patch has dropped, or, like I said, once we get some sort of notes on the PTR, because they're not going to be final values, but generally the trends do stay the same. It goes in the same trajectory, so we know where we're going to be going with this. It's going to be a huge hitter, and you're definitely going to want to not spend all of your gold now getting a best in slot set with, you know, best weapon perks and all of that good stuff, because I haven't even finished on the changes yet. There's still some more stonkers to come. So, following on from that then, what have they done next? They have lowered the percentage drop chance of the durability perk on items. It is still there, but it's going to be a much lower chance, and they've actually buffed it and renamed it to indestructible. This perk now, instead of just reducing the durability damage received, means that an item with it on will take 0 durability damage, absolutely no durability damage. So this is going to be good, and obviously any items that have durability on right now will be upgraded to indestructible once this update drops. So it is going to make this a lot more decent, but it's still not going to be best in slot, of course. However, it's now going to be less trash than it was, which I think is really important, and actually taking no durability damage for a lot of us is going to be quite blissful to have on a piece of gear. Now, overall loot quality is going to be getting a lot better, mainly the rarity between the rares and epics endgame, rather than getting things like commons and uncommons. A lot of greens pop up. We're going to be seeing way less and much more on the blues and purple side of stuff, so that's going to be really good, as well as obviously the better perk combinations. So when you do get an epic or indeed a legendary, you're going to be seeing more combat ready perks, things like keen, critical chances, that sort of stuff. Obviously vicious, increasing your crit damage, rather than things like beast bane or something like that. So that's going to be really good, and I'm excited for those changes to come into the game, especially because a lot of the drops you get are not good, and there's still more stuff coming on the drops as well. Now, they've also done another huge change, which is massively going to affect the meta here, and that is actually that dual stat items have been buffed. So for anything that is like dex slash strength or focus slash strength, anything basically that is not constitution will now provide more stat points or more bonus stat points overall than a single stat item. So for example, if something is pure strength, you're still going to get plus 31 strength or whatever it's 625, which is going to be the most you can get in a plus 1 stat. However, the dual stat items are now going to give numerically more together. So instead of giving like 10 each, you might get 15 each. Now, I don't know the exact values yet, so again, we're going to have to wait, but it's just speculation. But essentially, you're going to be getting more than 31 at 625 gear score split between the 2 points. So yeah, basically you're going to want to change all of your gear to be now dual stat as well as that. Of course, it does say without constitution, so you will need the actual points to put in constitution. I think the meta is going to be getting the attack perks or whatever. If you are just basically a strength con character, then it might not be so good, but it is going to open up a lot of viability to dual stat type builds, which I think is really cool. And it might be that everybody tries to go for dual stat armor, but we'll have to wait and see again what these values are actually going to be. Now, there's going to be a new method for specific expedition boss loot, like the Lazarus bow or the Fury, that a lot of people have been searching for. Basically, any expedition specific named items that you get as drops can be salvaged for a new specific material to those expeditions, which will then be basically allow you to craft specific drops that you want, like the Fury. This is amazing. It is going to be super expensive, I would imagine, but with the new access to 15 expeditions, regular expeditions that is, per day, you can get these pretty quickly, and I think that this is very cool. It's going to mean everyone can get those, particularly the free items that are going to be best in slot, like the Fury is a super good hammer. everyone's going to be able to get hands-on with that just by playing the game, and it's going to mean that progression is actually a bit more linear rather than just sporadic, which I really like, and I think this gives a good opportunity for everybody to get involved with some of the high-end PvP in turn, because leveling up a Fury, you're going to be on the same playing field as anybody else that has it, so I think that is good, and I'm really excited for that change to come into the game. Now, next, they talked about trade skill improvements coming. Firstly, they talked about salvaging items. This now has a chance to give you something called a perfect salvage. If you get a perfect salvage, it gives you a brand new resource that allows you to research trade skill XP, so convert it into XP for a trade skill, make it into a crafted item. Assumably this is going to be some sort of boost to the craft to give it a better chance at certain good end game type stuff. They can be condensed into gypsum casts, or it can be extracted for valuable resources, was the quote, so I don't know exactly what these are going to be yet, but assumably, again, something that is sought after at the end game. Or they can be indeed salvaged again for a ton of repair parts if you're needing those. So lots of good stuff that can come of salvaging items now, which is really, really good. Obviously, paired with the expedition-specific stuff, this is well on its way to be a very, very good system. If this continues to get improved, we're going to see some crazy stuff coming out of salvaging, but that is a really nice start. Now, they've also looked at gathering specifically, and what they've done here is basically sped up the progression for logging and fishing between levels 1 and 200 to make them a lot faster, which is great for me. Logging, I'm pretty much up there, almost 200 now. I'm chipping away a little bit every single day, but the fishing was still at about level 6, so I'm definitely going to wait for this to come out and then try and maybe get this up a little bit if I ever see the light of day with the fishing rod, but we'll see how that goes. Refining, all refining skills will be faster to level from 1 to 200, as well as obviously the changes to the fishing and logging. Basically, they want to aim it to keep up with the progression of your leveling phases much better, so that makes a lot more sense, and it's going to be easier to hit level 200, which is great. As well then, with refining, there is a huge change to reagents. They are only going to be using the tier 5 values for refining reagents, so that's your flux, your sandpaper, etc. So all of those will be leveled up to tier 5 values, and players will be given ways to level up the existing tier 3 and tier 4 reagents into that tier 5, so essentially making that a lot quicker and a lot better overall, because you're going to get much more for value for what you are doing. So interesting to see how that's going to be implemented. Again, once we get the patch notes, we can kind of take a deep dive into this, but we know that that change is coming, and in my opinion, that is a great change that is going to be very valuable to a lot of players throughout the game. Crafting then has also taken some love here. They're going to give players more value for crafting through progression. So essentially, every skill is getting an increased XP gain from every tier 4 and tier 5 item that is crafted. So you're going to be able to level up much quicker as you progress through the skill, which in my opinion is how it should have been from the start. I'm super glad this is coming in. It's a really highly requested change. And to kind of little cherry on top here for this update then, they've reduced the furnishing and weaponsmithing XP required by a big proportion in what is needed to get to level 200. Someone that has done like 150 levels in furnishing and 200 plus levels in weaponsmithing, this is an absolute banger of an update thing. It's just needed every single time. This was so much, it cost me so much money to get to 200 weaponsmithing. I think something like 70,000 gold and a lot of time and effort, as well as gathering all of the stuff up. It was a big grind compared to some of the others that I've hit 200 in. So this is much better, and I think overall is going to be a really welcome change to the player base. Everybody's basically going to be seeing a lot more progression, a lot more easily, and a lot less gated content, which is fantastic across the board. So that is pretty much it. Lots and lots of juicy stuff to take in. Big meta changes, big changes to the way that the game plays out. No more expedition keys needed. Big improvements and balances to things like the loot getting better. Big changes to crafting, refining, and gathering. Overall, a fantastic update, paired with the fact that we're going to be getting the summer event and the brand new expedition, which we can hope has a mutation as well, but no official word on that yet. That's just me hoping and thinking wishfully. But we shall see. The Summer Medley Fair, again, let me know what you guys think that is going to be down below in the comments. I'm not too sure what it could be myself, but it does sound very exciting. And I'm super excited to delve into these things. As soon as we get patch notes or the PTR comes out and I can get involved with these, I'll bring you guys updates here on the channel, so make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss out on any of that. If you did enjoy today's video, this nice recap, some very exciting stuff, make sure you drop me a like as well, as that is much appreciated. And other than that, guys, that is going to be it for today. I would like to thank you for watching, thank you for your time. If you haven't checked out the dev update video, I will leave it linked down below in the description. Do go and have a watch of that, it's fantastic. And other than that, I will catch you guys again very shortly on a brand new upload. So take care and peace.